You spent the money. The swing trainer that promised 20 more yards, the weighted club, the little magnetic bracelet that swore it would steady your hands over a putt. And your handicap didn't move a single stroke. I know, because I did it too. And here's what I found after months of digging. The 7 most hyped golf gadgets sold to men and women over 60 do almost nothing that a free drill can't do better. And the one thing that actually rescues an aging swing was written down in a book back in 1937 by a man with one leg, and it cost you absolutely nothing. This whole thing started for me in my brother-in-law's garage. He'd passed, and I was helping clear it out, and I found a cardboard box marked golf. Inside were 9 training gadgets. 9. Every one still had batteries or tags or the foam it shipped in. He'd spent, near as I could add it up from the receipts still in the box, over $1,100. And his scores, right there in his little logbook, never changed in 12 years. That box haunted me, so I pulled the thread. Stay with me, because the last clue is the best one. It comes from a golf instructor named Ernest Jones, from a method he taught blind and injured players in the 1920s. And you can set it up tonight with a shoelace and a house key. You don't need to buy one more thing. You already own everything this takes. Let me start with the one that made me angriest, because it's the cheapest to sell and the emptiest inside. The magnetic bracelet, the copper band, the little holographic sticker you slap on your wrist that's supposed to balance your energy and calm your nerves over a 3-foot putt. My brother-in-law had 2 of them, $39 each. Here's what I had to figure out first. Does a magnet on your wrist do anything at all to a golf swing? So I went looking for real testing, not the ad copy. I found it. A study published in the Mayo Clinic Proceedings back in 2005 put magnetic and copper bracelets up against fake ones that looked identical. The people wearing them couldn't tell the real from the fake, and the results were the same either way. No measurable difference. None. Later reviews of copper bracelets for joint pain found the exact same thing. What people felt was the simple fact that they'd spent money and expected to feel better. Now, I'm not here to insult anybody who bought one. I almost bought one myself. When your hands shake a little more than they did at 50 and someone offers you steadiness for under $40, of course you reach for your wallet. That's not foolish. That's human. But here's the part that stopped me cold. The steadiness those bracelets promise is real. And it's achievable. It just doesn't come from the metal. It comes from something the old teachers knew about grip, pressure, and breathing, and it's free. And once I realized the fix existed and had been buried under a shiny bracelet, I had to know how many other gadgets were doing the same trick, selling you the fix for a problem you could solve yourself. That question led me straight to the second thing in that box. And this one costs a lot more than $40. The weighted swing trainer. The heavy club you swing in the backyard to build golf muscles and groove your motion. My brother-in-law owned 2. One of them ran him about $90, the other well over $120. Now I want to be fair here, because this one is not pure junk. Swinging a slightly weighted club as a warm-up can genuinely loosen you up, and there's decent research that a warm-up before you play helps older golfers. But that's not what these are sold as. They're sold as a way to permanently add distance and fix your swing by repetition, and that's where the story falls apart. Here's what I dug into. I went reading through what strength researchers actually found about heavy implements and swing speed, and I kept hitting the same wall. When you swing something much heavier than your real club over and over, your body learns a different motion. A slower, shorter, more muscled-up motion. Then you pick up your actual driver, which is light and long, and your body's confused. Studies on overweight and underweight training in throwing and swinging sports go back decades, and the consistent finding is that if you want more speed, training with something lighter and faster teaches the body more than something heavier and slower. Think about that. The very heaviness that makes the gadget feel like it's working is the thing making it work against you. It feels like exercise, so it feels like progress. But the feeling of effort and the fact of improvement are 2 completely different animals. That's the trap running through nearly every gadget in that box. They're engineered to feel like they're doing something. So I sat there thinking, all right, the bracelet was empty, the weighted club is mostly a warm-up tool dressed up as a miracle. What about the expensive stuff? The electronic stuff? Surely the gadget with a screen and a battery earns its price. That's where I was wrong again. And this next one costs more than the first three put together. The personal launch monitor, the little device you set on the grass that beams a number to your phone and tells you your swing speed, your spin rate, your launch angle. The one in that box was over $250, and it was one of the cheaper ones. The good ones run into the thousands. Now, here's what I had to admit to myself. A launch monitor is not a scam. The professionals use them. They measure real things. But that's exactly the problem for a 70-year-old man in his backyard. A launch monitor gives you data. It does not give you a swing. It tells you your ball spun too much. It does not tell you why or what to do with your hands and hips to fix it. It's a thermometer, not a doctor. And I found the receipts on this everywhere I looked. I went into golf forums, the ones where regular players talk honestly, and I read post after post from older golfers who bought a launch monitor, stared at the numbers for a month, and quietly put it in a drawer. One fellow wrote a line I copied down. He said, "I paid $300 to be told I'm slow. I already knew that. It never told me how to be fast." That stuck with me, because here's the deeper thing I started to understand. Every one of these gadgets substitutes a measurement or a gimmick for a skill, and skill is the one thing they can't sell you in a box, because skill is free. That realization is when the investigation stopped being about gadgets and started being about something bigger. Somebody, somewhere, decided it was more profitable to sell you the appearance of improvement than the real thing, and I wanted to know who and when it started. But before I get to that, let me show you the fourth gadget, because this is the one that actually makes your golf worse while you pay for it. The hinged anti-slice trainer, the club or the attachment that folds or clicks if your swing is off plane, supposedly training you to stop slicing the ball. My brother-in-law had one, right around $79. The slice is the number one frustration in golf, especially as we get older and lose flexibility and the turn gets shorter. So a device that promises to cure it forever is going to sell. I understand why he bought it, but here's what nobody tells you. Most slices come from something these gadgets can't touch. They come from the club face being open at impact and from a grip that's too weak, meaning your hands are turned too far toward the target. A hinged trainer drills a swing path. It does almost nothing for the two things that actually cause the slice. So you groove a fancier motion and keep slicing, and now you're convinced golf is just too hard, so you buy the next gadget. It's a loop, and the loop is the product. Here's the free fix I found, and I want you to sit with how simple it is compared to a $79 hinge contraption. The single most reliable slice cure in the old instruction books is to strengthen your grip. Turn both hands slightly away from the target on the handle until you can see 2, maybe 3 knuckles on your top hand when you look down. That one change closes the face at impact for most players. It's free. It takes 10 seconds. And it was being taught this way 100 years ago. That's when it really hit me. The cures aren't lost because they're complicated. They're lost because nobody can put a patent and a price tag on turn your hands a quarter inch. And that is a much older story than golf gadgets. Let me tell you where this actually comes from, because this is the part that turned my irritation into something closer to anger. Golf equipment marketing figured out something powerful decades ago. In the 1970s and 80s, as club making went from small workshops to big factories, the money stopped being in teaching people to play and started being in selling them things. And older golfers became the perfect customer. Think about it. We have disposable income, we have time, we love the game, and we're a little frustrated because our bodies changed. We remember hitting it farther. So when a glossy ad says, "Regain your lost distance," or "Swing like you did at 40, it lands right on the sore spot. I found the pattern spelled out plain in the way these products get named. Senior Flex, Game Improvement, Max Distance. Every one of those phrases is aimed at a specific fear. The fear of getting old and losing what you had. And the cruelest part is that the real answer to that fear, keeping a smooth, well-timed swing as you age, was documented and proven long before any of these companies existed. They didn't lose that knowledge. They just found it more profitable to let you forget it. Which brings me to gadget number 5, and this one is the biggest money pit of them all, the Senior Distance Driver. The oversized head, the ultralight shaft, the aerospace technology, the trampoline face that's supposed to give you back the 20 yards you lost. These run $300, $400, $500, and there's a new must-have model every single year. My brother-in-law bought 3 drivers in 12 years. Now here's the thing that took me the longest to accept, because I wanted the new driver to work as much as anybody. There are real rules that limit how much a driver face can help you. The governing bodies of golf set a legal limit on how springy a club face can be. It's called the coefficient of restitution, and every legal driver, the cheap ones and the expensive ones, is already at that limit, has been for years. So the revolutionary new face that supposedly adds distance physically cannot add much, because the ceiling was hit a long time ago and it's the same ceiling for everybody. I found independent testing that backed this up. When testers put a brand new driver against one from 5 or even 10 years earlier, the difference in real-world distance for an average swing was often just a few yards, and sometimes zero, a few yards, for $400 every year. So where do the lost yards actually go as we age? They go into swing speed, and swing speed comes from timing and sequence, not from the club. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment on the tee when the ball comes up 20 yards short, and you wonder if the game just left you behind. It didn't. And that gnawing feeling you have right now that the real answer got buried so somebody could sell you a shinier club is exactly what the complete senior golf system was built to fix once and for all. It's the honest, senior-specific playbook I wish my brother-in-law had found before that box in the garage. Smart Basics shows you the exact driver loft mistake that's costing you 25 yards right now, plus the hip rotation and wrist fixes you can put to work this very weekend. Swing Deeper walks you through what really changes in the aging swing after 55 and the shaft flex and loft numbers that actually move the needle for a real senior swing speed. And here's proof you can run tonight, free, before you spend a dime. They claim 513 pages of real content built from actual on-course data, not Tour Pro theory made for 30-year-olds. So test it yourself with the tempo count from a minute ago, count a slow 1 back and a quick and down on 10 swings in your living room, and watch your contact tighten up without a single new gadget. If that little count does something no bracelet ever did, you already know the rest is waiting for you. The fastest way to get the books is to scan the QR code right there on your screen, or go to the link in the description or the pinned comment. And this isn't a launch day gimmick, it's just true. Every round you play with the wrong loft and the wrong tempo is quietly costing you strokes you'll never get back. But hold on to that word tempo for one more minute, because I'm about to show you exactly where that count comes from, and it's backed by hard numbers. A smooth, well-sequenced swing at 68 will outdrive a rushed, muscled swing at 45. I've watched it happen on the range. The distance is in the tempo. And tempo, once again, is free. Hold that word tempo, because it's the key that unlocks the whole case at the end. Now, therefore, if you've been sitting there thinking this is all interesting, but it's not for you, that you're not going to overhaul your golf swing at your age, that it's too much trouble, I want to talk to you directly for a minute. This next part is built specifically for the person who figures the old dog can't learn new tricks, because what I'm about to give you takes no athletic ability, no lessons, and nothing you don't already own. Here it is. This week, before you spend another dime, I want you to try 3 free things I pulled straight out of the old instruction and confirmed for myself on the range. First, the grip fix. Turn both hands slightly away from the target until you see 2 or 3 knuckles on your lead hand. Hit 20 balls or 20 practice swings like that in the backyard. For most people who slice, the ball starts turning the other way almost immediately. That's your $79 anti-slice gadget, done for nothing. Second, the pressure fix. This one replaces the magnetic bracelet. On a scale where 10 is squeezing as hard as you can, hold the club at about a 4 or a 5, light. Then, right before you swing, take 1 slow breath out. The shakiness people feel over the ball is mostly tension and held breath, not a lack of magnets. Loosen the grip, breathe out, and the hands settle. I tested this against gripping tight, and the difference in a putting stroke was night and day. Third, and this is the big one, the tempo count. As you swing, count in your head. A slow one going back and a quick and coming down. Same rhythm every time. Don't try to kill the ball, just keep the beat steady. This does more for your distance and your contact than any driver on the shelf, and I'm going to tell you exactly where that count comes from in a moment because it's backed by hard numbers. 3 things. No purchase. You can do all of them this week in your own yard or living room. And if you only ever take those 3, you got more out of this than my brother-in-law got out of $1,100. But I promised you the whole case, so let me finish exposing the last 2 gadgets because they set up the final answer. Gadget number 6, the rangefinder and the fancy GPS watch. The one that tells you it's 147 yards to the pin. My brother-in-law's cost around $200. I'll be honest, this one is the least offensive on the whole list. Knowing your distance is genuinely useful, but here's the quiet truth I found talking to older players who shoot good scores. Knowing it's 147 yards does nothing for you if you don't know how far you actually carry each club. And most amateurs badly overestimate their distances. They think they hit a 7-iron 150 when they really carry it 130. So the gadget gives you a precise number, and you feed it into a fantasy, and you come up short every time and blame yourself. The fix, again, costs nothing. Go to a field or an empty range, hit 10 balls with 1 club, walk off the average, and write it down. Real numbers. Now you know your true distances, and suddenly a cheap course guide or even just a glance is plenty. The $200 device was never the missing piece. Honest self-measurement was, and that's the thread running through every single one of these. They sell you precision to hide the fact that you never got the fundamentals. Which brings me to the 7th and final gadget, the one that made me laugh out loud when I found the truth. The grip and forearm trainer, the squeezy vibrating device, the spring-loaded gripper, the gizmos that promise a stronger golf grip and more control, $40 to $60 depending. Here's the joke. In golf, grip strength is almost never the problem. Gripping harder is one of the worst things you can do. It tenses your forearms, it kills your wrist hinge, and it destroys the very tempo that creates distance. So people were buying a device to build the exact thing that was hurting their swing. They were paying money to get worse. That's not an accident. That's the loop working perfectly. Sell the problem as the solution. By now I had my 7 gadgets exposed. The bracelet, the weighted club, the launch monitor, the anti-slice hinge, the yearly driver, the rangefinder, the grip trainer. Together, more money than a good used car over the years. And every single one had a free, older, better answer sitting underneath it. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. And the pattern pointed at one final question. If all these fixes are free and old, where did they come from? And who kept them alive? That's the last clue. And it's the best thing I found in this entire investigation. Let me take you back to the year 1920. There was a golf professional in England named Ernest Jones. He was a fine player, good enough to compete seriously. Then came the First World War, and in 1916 he was wounded so badly that surgeons amputated his right leg below the knee. Think about what that means for a golfer. He'd lost his balance, his base, half his body's foundation, and here's the thing that changes everything. Within months, standing on one leg, on crutches at first, Ernest Jones went out and shot a 72, even par, on one leg. How? Because he'd stumbled onto a truth that all the gadgets in that box were built to make you forget. He realized that golf isn't 100 moving parts. It isn't the wrists and the hips and the shoulders and the elbows all managed separately the way every training aid tries to isolate them. He realized the whole swing is one thing. A swing, a smooth, connected, rhythmic swing of the club head, and everything else follows it. He spent the rest of his life teaching it. He moved to America, taught for decades in New York, and in 1937 he laid it all out. Later, he put the full method in a book titled Swing the Clubhead, and there's a fuller edition called Swing the Clubhead, Carrying His Life's Work. This is the buried document. This is the piece that was pushed aside so somebody could sell you a hinged club. And here's the drill, the one you can do tonight, the one that made him famous. Ernest Jones would take an ordinary pocket knife, a jackknife, and tie it to the end of a handkerchief, a weight on the end of a piece of cloth. Then he'd have you swing that, back and through, And here's the magic of it. You cannot swing a weight on a string with your muscles. If you get tight, if you grab, if you force it, the string goes slack and the whole thing collapses and flops. The only way to make that little weight swing smoothly is to let it swing. To feel the weight and stay out of its way and keep a steady rhythm, that flowing feeling, that's the entire golf swing. That's what a 50-year-old loses and blames on age. That's the 20 yards the $400 driver promised. That's the steadiness the magnetic bracelet promised. That's the slice cure and the control the grip trainer promised. All of it. One free drill, taught by a one-legged man in 1937, using a pocket knife and a handkerchief. You don't even need a knife. Tie a house key or a heavy washer or a padlock to the end of a shoelace or a length of string. Hold the loose end. Now swing it back and forth and let the weight lead. Feel it sling out at the bottom. Keep it smooth so the string never goes slack. Do that for 2 minutes a day in your living room, then take that exact same feeling to a real club. That's it. That's the whole secret the gadgets have been standing on top of for 50 years. And now, the number that proves it. Because I told you tempo was the key, and I want to give you the hard data, not just a nice story. Decades after Ernest Jones, a man named John Novosel got obsessed with the same question I did. He took old film and video of the greatest golfers who ever lived and measured their swings frame by frame, and he found something almost eerie. Nearly all of the great players, no matter their size or style, swung with the same rhythm. The backswing took about 3 times as long as the downswing, a ratio of 3 to 1. He published it in a book called Tour Tempo back in 2004. 3 to 1. That's the beat. That's what your little weight on a string naturally teaches your body, because a smooth pendulum wants that exact rhythm. So when I told you earlier to count a slow 1 back and a quick and down, that count is the 3 to 1 tempo of every legend who ever played. And it's the tempo the handkerchief drill grooves into your hands for free. Ernest Jones felt it in 1920 on one leg. John Novosel measured it and proved it with numbers in 2004. And the whole gadget industry has spent the years in between selling you everything except that. Let me put the full picture together, because this is where it all closes. The knowledge existed. A wounded golfer discovered in 1916 that the swing is one smooth motion, not 100 parts, and he proved it by shooting even par on one leg. It was written down and taught to thousands. Then, as golf turned into a billion-dollar business, that simple truth got buried under an avalanche of gadgets, because you can't sell a free feeling, but you can sell a $400 driver every spring. A few teachers kept the old method alive in dusty books and quiet lessons. And now, tonight, it's yours. A shoelace, a key, and 2 minutes. That's the whole case. 7 gadgets, over $1,000, and the thing that actually works was free the entire time and older than every company that sold him that box. Here's what I really want you to walk away with. It was never that you weren't good enough, or too old, or that your money was wasted because you're a fool. You were sold complexity on purpose, because complexity has a price tag and simplicity doesn't. You didn't fail at golf. You were pointed away from the one free thing that works. And if you're the kind of person who's always suspected that the simplest, cheapest, oldest answer was quietly buried so somebody else could keep selling you the expensive one, then you already understand what this whole investigation was really about. It was never just golf. Now I need one thing from you, and I need you to actually do it, because folks who watch all the way to the end almost never leave a word, and this is the part that helps the next person find it. Tell me in the comments which of these 7 you bought. The magnetic bracelet, the weighted club, the yearly driver. Name the one that cost you the most and did the least. Just type the name of the gadget. I read them, and I promise you're not the only one who fell for it. And if you want to come with me on the next one, subscribe and stand with the people who are digging all this lost, practical knowledge back out of the ground before it's gone for good. Because the next case I'm chasing is about the cheap wooden pencil and the scorecard, and a scoring habit from the 1950s that quietly knocked strokes off players' games without a single lesson or gadget. I found where it was written down, and once you see it, you'll never keep score the same way again. Grab a shoelace and a key, swing it tonight, feel the weight lead. That feeling was never for sale. It was always yours. If you're still with me, here's where it goes deeper. Inside the old ways circle, I continue this video walking you step by step so your hands finally steady. And you can ask me your own questions, and I answer you myself. Not some machine. You'd be joining old ways folks just like you. Point your phone's camera at the code on the screen. And you can cancel any time with one click, no risk. Now, before you spend another $1 on fancy clubs, let me show you the real secret to lower scores. It has nothing to do with expensive irons. That video's starting right here, and it could change your whole game.